Apparently some of the neocon-style crapulists are returned to vlogger heads. So, yeah, that pizza boy asshole is back posting videos there. And, he's posted this really idiotic, complete neocon, Looney Toony kind of stuff. Some, ex... Um, I think he worked in the first Bush administration, but I'm not sure. But anyway, this guy with this whole core theory and about how we need to globalize the world under capitalism. Um, but just the exploitationist values, the free market style values, none of the worker protection style values, because they of course hurt productivity, which the capitalists are completely dependent on exploiting, is the productivity of cheap labor. So anyway, the whole theory is just so idiotic. The excuse is, the same jargon. The rest of the world's poor because it's lacking capitalism. It doesn't have anything to do with environmental conditions. It doesn't have anything to do with infrastructure. No, it just has to do with the fact that they haven't accepted capitalism. If they just accept capitalism, everything will be just fine. As we see in the Soviet Union, it doesn't make everything just fine. um, but the argument basically is that these countries that are networked, that do this commerce thing around the world, have this much better, higher standard of living, and of course they do, because the standards they have for their citizens aren't the same standards they apply to the rest of the world. I mean, he was even foolish enough to mention something like Israel, which basically has a slave labor to exploit, and it's completely dependent on external funding to keep itself alive. It's just such a joke. It's just so funny that these neocons would even argue this point, just because they couldn't have a more ideal circumstance for their feeding frenzy. If China was under a more civilized democratic regime, they would be less. They would have less advantage. The American standard of living would be reduced. The European standard of living would be reduced. It wouldn't be enhanced. Because we wouldn't be able to exploit the cheap labor in that country anymore, because now they would have a minimum wage, and now they would have a minimum standard of environmental degradation, and they would have all this civilization. It's like the scenario is just so obvious. I mean, you can write the equation. You can say, look, if all we want is productivity in the world, if all we want is growth, production, then yes, slavery is the answer. Okay, slavery works great. It's highly productive, but the consequence of it is a hugely unethical corruption that just invalidates your productivity, makes it mean nothing, because the price you've paid in terms of destroying this valuable thing called human dignity is way too fucking high. You'd have to be an idiot to say, yes, that's an acceptable price to pay. And the only people who'd say it's an acceptable price, of course, are the exploitnists, the people who are feeding off of that productivity. So if you civilize China tomorrow, your American standard of living is not going to go up. It's going to go down, okay? Because you might get a few more jobs out of the equation, but the problem with that equation is that you're not going to get the cheap merchandise anymore, and you're also not going to have the capitalists. You're not going to have a stock market that can feed off of that high productivity in another country. So this idea that you could possibly globalize the world under capitalism or under our ethics, I mean, like I said, unless the scenario is you just liberate the marketeers, you just liberate the graft, and you do not liberate the dignity of the worker. So if the scenario is, yes, you have free markets for the people controlling the labor, well, okay, I suppose there might be some. I don't even still see how it could be an advantage. I don't know how you could enslave the people any worse. You're not going to get Chinese people to work for less money, and you're not going to find some other population somewhere that's going to work for less money, that's going to be willing. I mean, there's people willing to die at 25 now, and there's little kids, dying all over the frickin' world doing jobs they shouldn't be even anywhere near. So how much worse are you going to make it? How can you possibly gain more in this scenario? We're already at peak exploitation. I mean, beyond putting people in chains, you can't get the exploitation number any friggin' higher. You can't get the amount of wealth and capital you are extracting from laborers any frickin' higher. Okay, you've got the maximum numbers, and so it's just so ironic that even sort of complain, because they obviously wouldn't want that. You wouldn't, like I said, you wouldn't want to civilize China, because then it's game over for your standard of living. You can no longer live the high life. That's like saying, if I start paying my slaves, if I'm I have a cotton plantation in the South, and I start paying my slaves, and I start worrying about their health and give them health care benefits and give them civilization, that somehow I'm going to benefit from that equation as a capitalist? You know, no freaking way. That I'm going to get wealthier? That's not going to happen. My nation, okay, the owner nation, is going to lose resources. So that's the big irony here. It's just a big joke. So he said, yeah, go ahead, capitalize the rest of the world, because I don't think you can do it, okay, without the, you certainly couldn't democraticize them without them having the power to force you, the people, to maintain some sort of wage structure. I mean, certainly the broken democracy in Mexico is getting away with it, and certainly it's happening in Russia. I mean, the people of Russia aren't giving the choices, because we always give all these people broken democracies. We give them two choices between two people, and one of them has, propaganda that's a little bit more appealing than the other, but they're really not for the people, okay? They're always first for the paid interest, the interest that puts them in office, that pays their way into, that pays for the propaganda required to be produced for them to acquire the position of power. And we see that in our system. I mean, the Democrats are basically screwing the average citizen. They're bailing out the rich. So their rhetoric doesn't mean much, because their rhetoric isn't converted into law. And as long as they can maintain the propaganda, the lie, the deception, and that's, somebody had posted a video earlier on Bloggerheads and kind of pointed out that we're all distracted by these $500,000 bonus checks going out to these AIG executives, and we're missing the point that trillions, sorry, my mistake, trillions of dollars have now been converted, from the society's coffers to the wealthiest people in the world. So we've all been, we all haven't been duped, but we have been abused by the political system, even here. But anyway, it's an ironic argument that they somehow think they can gain more productivity out of people. I mean, when they're already getting all they can possibly. You can't have a better environment for a capitalist. And they think that somehow it can get better, and it can't get better. They really don't get it. That capitalists only thrive through parasitic behavior. They cannot thrive through any other mechanism. They must be a parasite on a productive worker. And they're still not going. They're just never going to get the proper equation. But the worst part with this neocon guy that Pizza Head's all in love with is, the worst part of it is, he thinks that we have this right to go into other countries like Iraq. And he sort of, he pointed at Iraq and said it was a dysfunctional country, in terms of the marketplace and the rest of it. And it's just that's just a flat-out bullshit. Iraq was one of the most economically connected to the rest of the world countries in the Middle East. And you have to also remember that any oil-rich country is not going to be, integrated into the capitalist system, because it doesn't need to be. It can create it can be semi-self-sufficient, because it can feed off of its paycheck every month. So it's kind of silly to have this expectation that those kind of countries are going to be the same. They're going to participate in the same level, because they don't have to exploit their own people. They don't really have to. Where a country like China can't, it hasn't found the mechanism to do it any other way. The billionaires can't get to be billionaires over there without the exploitation, because they can't just sell what's in the ground. So anyway, it's just another dumb, stupid, idiotic video. I should just play the last part he said, just to, throw some cheap rhetoric back in his face.
Barnett makes a very convincing argument for spreading capitalistic, wealthy globalization. Because what it does is it brings...
Oh, I should laugh at that right there. Like I said, it's just capitalistic. Again, how can you spread it? It's not possible to spread exploitation. We're already, the only way the capitalists, our lifestyle is completely dependent on that exploitation. If we applied the same worker standards to the economy that we're exploiting, the people we're exploiting, we would not be rich capitalists anymore. We're just the plantation owners, all right? And we have this we're sucking resources out of them. We're not generating efficiency in our economy. We're feeding off of somebody else's productivity.
Whole world into a more peaceful, prosperous paradigm. So
yeah, you make peace by making war. I don't think that's a rational scenario. Trillions of dollars over in the Middle East, and I think we created a bunch of terrorists. The birth rates went way up. The intelligence, the education rates gone way down. The fanaticism, the religious fanaticism's growing, not shrinking. All the worst kind of scenario it's created. It hasn't made the environment one bit better. So even if you're gonna have the idea that you need to spread this kind of meme throughout the world, you have to do it by conversation or argument or proof. You can't do it at the end of a gun. If you do it at the end of the gun, you'll get the equal but opposite reaction shit. And that's all you damn neocons have sent us to, is disaster.
You can listen to an expert and an actual thinker on these issues. Or
yeah, an expert by your definition, right? But how the hell are you an expert on obtuse economic theory? I mean, who defines what an expert is in that field? I mean, that's just preposterous.
Listening to a raving lunatic who is swearing at you and putting people down.
Yeah, well, listen to what you are, okay? We've got you on tape. We got the videotape, asshole. You have no respect for the truth. So here you are. You're worried about some dirty words, some honest, dirty words. And what you'll do is just completely slander the truth. Just willfully and deliberately mislead people with you know, what can I say, with completely dishonest rhetoric, completely dishonest descriptions of the reality that took place. You have no regard for the truth.
Frothing at the mouth. It's up to you.
Yeah, whatever. You know, like I said, it really is up to them. You're either smart enough to get past words, simple words, and to appreciate something that's logical and honest, or you'll accept some fucktard, okay, some idiot, who's number one, doesn't give you logic, just reads from a book not meant to be a summary, a book that's meant to be a whole long, huge, gigantic explanation taking you all the way from A to Z. And yet this guy is going to present that, a little tiny piece of that, and say, isn't that a convincing argument? Well, I'm afraid not, because it has no context, no overview, and again, it's not even honest. It's just this, it's a silly, it has no theoretical honesty to it, because we know where capital, we know where wealth comes from. It comes from exploiting productivity. It doesn't come from any fucking place else. Ugh, these idiots. So that's it. That's all. The end. All right. So yeah, I'm not going to post this to vlogger heads. So you know, until they come up with some sort of policy or something, just some sort of indication that you know, people aren't going to get slandered by other people. Screw it. You know, I'm not gonna accept. You know, look, people can disagree. People can call me an asshole. But I'm not going to have people contrive dishonest descriptions of reality and have a group of people say, yes, we endorse that dishonesty. And I'm not going to have the duplicity of two standards. It's okay to call somebody a communist, but it's not okay to call them an asshole. I mean, that's just fucking bullshit. So until they grow a brain on that subject, yeah, you'll have to find me here. Okay, enough said.